Um, what we are going to see now is um, a way for you to evaluate nurses using AI. Um, so I am in Vina, which is a tool where you drop in the job profile. Vina will let you know what questions to ask for the job profile depending on their level of experience. And these questions are not simple. These questions are very scenario based. And let's say you are hiring someone with 15 years of experience. There is just nothing they've not seen. So you need to put them in a scenario that is fairly nuanced where you can check their credentials. So Vina comes up with these questions, which the interviewer then asks. And then Vina takes over and evaluates the transcript to say whom to hire, whom not to hire. As you might see in this case very shortly, the interview itself is also going to be done by AI. Let's start with the job role first. Let's say I'm hiring for a behavioral nurse, and track is it's a professional and they are experienced, and this is the job profile, and this profile is open, this role is open in Catholic Health. Let me generate the traits. It's generating the traits. It's going to take about 20 seconds or so to do that. So what it's doing in the background is looking at the job, looking at what people have told about the job, and then reverse engineering from there to say what is important. For example, they need to be proficient in developing very customized, individualized behavioral health plan, and they need to be skilled at coordinating multiple disciplines because behavioral health can have like many roots. Timely assessment and discharge planning, reconciliation and patient education. I mean, all of these are pretty understandable, right? You can also say which ones are must have, which ones are nice to have. You can even move things around a little bit here and there. The higher up you go, the more priority or weights it's given, right? So let's say I have prioritized now and I'm saving this trades to the job role that we are advertising for. All right, so that's happening now. Let's wait for a moment. It's asking me if I want to generate a interview script for it. Of course, I do want to generate an interview script for this. Yes, and right now we are focused only on scenario-based questions. So I'm saying yes. Go ahead and generate that script, and that's happening now. Generating scripts will also take about 30 seconds or so because it's just going all the way across the internet, making sure that it's asking the right questions and not hallucinating and so on. So here are the questions. The column one is one set of questions, column two is second set, column three is third set. You can just mix and match. So how do you describe a situation where a patient's cultural or linguistic background severely impacted your ability to come up with a behavioral health plan? It probably, I'm pretty sure it probably would not come up with this question if this hospital is somewhere in the middle America, right? So this is New York, and so it's like a cultural melting pot. So it's likely that you would meet someone who is not like an English native and so on, right? Let's say another question: you're managing a patient with severe mental health crisis. Outline the steps you would take to do necessary referrals, etc. Makes sense. Proficient in medication reconciliation. I don't even know what that means. Imagine a patient who is struggling to understand their medication regimen and its potential side effects. How would you tailor educational approach? Let's see another question. You're working with a patient and their family has conflicting view on patient's medication plan. How would you provide a productive conversation, address their concerns, etc.? So these questions, as you can see, are fairly nuanced. Let's say I have these questions now. Now what I would do is I would log in as a nurse recruiter, and let's assume that a few people have responded. I have to port the resume here, create a bunch of questions that are screening questions, and then like provide the phone number of the candidate, all of that, set up new resumes. So I'm not going to do that for behavioral scientists. I'm just going to do for cardiology nurse, which is already here. So Ashwin, which is me, has applied for that position. So I'm going to call them. When I say I am going to call them, it's actually AI which is calling.
Ashwin, this is Mayu, a digital recruiter with Motive. Do you have a quick few minutes to discuss an exciting job opportunity?
I have about 10 minutes. Is that okay?
Great, that should be enough time. I just need to confirm a few details and ask some pre-qualification questions.
Sure.
Do I have
Yeah.
your consent to...
Yeah, sure. Just make it short.
Perfect. Thank you. Let's get started. First, can you confirm your work authorization status? Are you a U.S. citizen, green card holder, or do you have a visa?
I'm a US citizen.
Thank you. Are you open to full-time contract roles?
Well, it depends. If I find it interesting, I will be open to it.
Understood. This position is remote, so you can work from anywhere. Let's move on to some specific qualifications needed for the role. Are you currently licensed as a registered nurse in a compact state, and is your license both active and unrestricted?
So, yes and yes for both, but I'm not sure why you're asking this question.
Thank you for confirming that. Now, can you describe your hands-on experience working with cardiology patients, including specific cardiac conditions you've managed?
Yeah, I've managed cardiac arrhythmia. I've managed very usual symptoms like palpitations, etc. Like so, and I've been in the similar position for about 15 years. Are we going to do the detailed interview now, or are we just going to do the qualification questions?
This is just a pre-qualification interview to determine if you meet the basic requirements for the role.
Got it.
Let's continue with the next. How would you approach delivering complex or difficult clinical information to a patient in a virtual setting?
Yeah, it calls for a lot of empathy and understanding of the patient's situation, and you need to be unambiguous about what the conditions are, and like if they have a caretaker, you need to involve them in the conversation. Yeah, ultimately, telehealth is all about over communicating.
Which electronic health record EHR system have you used most extensively, and what tasks did you regularly perform within it?
Yeah, mostly Epic, and it's mostly my notes on the patient's progress and the care plan and the physician's notes and submission of claims and those kinds of things.
Thank you for sharing that information. Before we wrap up, do you have any questions about the role or the company?
Yeah, where is this going to be? I mean, where is the hospital based in, and do I have to show up like once in a while?
This position is completely remote, so you won't need to show up in person. All your work will be done virtually. Thank you for your time today, Ashwin. What would be your preferred time and date to schedule an interview with the recruiter?
Yeah, ask someone to email me, and I'll coordinate with them.
Great. I'll pass that along. Thank you for your time, Ashwin. Have a wonderful day.
Perfect. So AI called me, and it did a bunch of screening questions, and let's just say like I kind of did a good job. Assuming I did a good job, let's see what happens here now. So this is my resume, skills, and so on. And let me go back. Let me click here to see if there's any feedback. So there's a call that just happened, 27/7, which is a Sunday. There's an outbound call. There's some details. There's some transcript. I mean, transcript is not there yet because the call just got over. So all of this is not ready yet. Like, so if I think this is the call I didn't pick up. So the call I picked up will like show up in a few minutes. I can come back and check, and it'll be there. Let's say I did a good job, and they said like, this is a candidate to go after, and they invite me for a live interview. The live interview is going to happen on a web interface because it's an hour of phone call. AI is not good for doing an hour-long phone call. 10 minutes, maybe yes. 15 minutes, you're pushing it. An hour, it's definitely not happening. So the same AI can be asked to come and join a call like this and on the web, and it'll do a good job. So let's say I'm joining this call. So typically I get a link, I click on it, and I'm joining this call. I'm doing well. How are you? Well, absolutely. Yeah, I was actually, in fact, looking forward to your call. Oh, yeah, sure. I'm ready. Yeah, sure. In a telehealth setting, I'm extra mindful of what I cannot physically examine. So I lean in on heavily visual cues like skin tone, speech, how they breathe, and and if they report any vitals, I'll consider them. And I'm also looking at like modified heart score and typical checklists like an angina, heart failure, etc. But I have to adapt these things from a teleconsultation setup point of view. Yeah, so I would not brush aside their concerns, and patients are more likely to open up when they are heard. If they have cost concerns, I have to explore generic options or like local pharmacy discounts or grant programs and so on. I need to do all of these very discreetly as well. Yeah, so they may say things like, "I'm worried about side effects," or I ask if they do that. Like I just dig deeper and find out if they are worried about say dizziness or bleeding risk and so on. So I need to explain the medication, how it works, and how to monitor for side effects, etc. And I just need to be sure that they are not going to skip on some of these things. That's also my responsibility. I'll keep my language simple, and I'll just be sure that I'll be firm that they have to take the medication, and I'll also tell them like what problems they might face if they don't. I mean, I will build trust, and I will be respectful because respect is important, and the trust between me and them builds adherence. Yeah, we had a patient with post MI kind of a situation and showing, I mean, he was showing early signs of cardiogenic shock, borderline BP, low urine output, classic conditions, right? So, cardiologists initially felt the vitals didn't meet the criteria for escalation, but I'd been observing this patient all shifts and I can see the decline. I documented the trends. I suggested we get a stat echo. The challenge here was not clinical, it was communication. Balancing assertiveness without being confrontational takes a lot of practice and self control, and I would say wisdom, which comes in if you're in this business for 10 years, you know it, right? Yeah, that's kind of what I did. Yeah, so I'm not going to go into the details of this, so I'm going to stop this interview now because I can keep going on, and this will be an interesting conversation, but we don't have time for it. So let me just stop this. Yeah, I've done that. So let's continue with the rest of the part of the evaluation. So I come back here, and as you can see, there are a bunch of interviews that have been done, and this role is that of a cardiac nurse. And there are a bunch of interviews that are completed. Let's take the interview of Roger. Roger is a strong hire. So what happened here is the interview transcript is pulled out and given to AI, and the AI publishes a report like this. Roger shows a strong alignment with the requirements of registered nurse cardiology. His responses consistently show high clinical skills, communication skills, technical proficiency, blah, blah, blah. He is particularly well versed with HIPAA compliance. He's proactive. His substantive answers more than compensate for the minor drawback, which is occasional hesitations. Right? Let's double click on these things. Um, let's look at each trait and see how Roger has performed against these traits. So it has scored a good 8 on 10 for each of these straight, but like why did he score 7.8 or 7.6, whatever that number was? That's because the proficiency in telehealth is not like coming through very clearly. Let's double click on that. Um, Roger demonstrates strong problem solving skills. He consistently outlines blah blah blah. His response shows ability to prioritize and so on. Oh, that's not the one. Which is the one? Yeah, this demonstrates good understanding and practical application of telehealth. Um, he said the platform we used were HIPAA compliant. He showcases problem solving skills. However, his descriptions lack specific details about the platforms or used or like the advanced features utilized. He mentions patient portal without displaying understanding of specific functionality. While he addressed technical issues, he doesn't describe complex troubleshooting scenarios or mastery over tools. So this is why, right? So it's fantastic in like how it pulls like a part of the conversation, relates it to the trait, and says, be watchful of this. The score might be 7 or 7.5 or whatever, but it allows you to double click on whether to hire this person or not. So Mayu decided to, not Mayu, I'm sorry, Vina, the other agent which is like evaluating this, decided to hire this person anyway. So we might just like go ahead with them. But it also, in another case, said that this person is not, a specific person is not worth hiring. Before I go into that, it also shows like, what's green, what's yellow, what's a red flag about this person, and like the Q&A of like, I mean, summary of each question and answer, the raw transcript if you want, all of that. Let's just go back to the other interviews that we did for the same profile. So cardiac nurse Michael Chen was a no. Let's see why Michael Chen was a no. His responses lack precision when discussing complex scenarios and legal compliance. Uh, Lacks proactive problem solving skill. Let's double click on this. This is Michael Chen, right? Yeah. Across the board, he has scored poorly. So let's look at it. Michael Chen demonstrates collaborative skills, but falls short of consistently proactive and effective teamwork. He mentions collaboration with cardiologists and nurses in a few instances. His descriptions lack detail regarding his proactive initiation of collaboration or his contributions to multidisciplinary discussions. His responses often focus on his individual actions than collaborative problem solving. In a scenario involving a patient with multiple comorbidities, he mentions informing the next nurse, but does not describe actively engaging in a team discussion to resolve the conflicting treatment goals. We may have to tweak the sensitivity of like some of these measurements because like each hospital might have a different way of evaluating. We can work with them. These are the things that we need to customize. So one thing to remember here is while the tool does a bunch of things, you need to think of them as building blocks and not like a finished product. So there's a lot of fine tuning that we need to do here. just to be sure that like it exactly measures the way the best nurse would measure or evaluate a candidate. So yeah, so that kind of brings us to the close of the interview process. Let's say this person is hired or like close to being hired, and now we want to like evaluate um, if this person is also like qualified from a legal standpoint, right? So let's look at the demo here. So there are a bunch of documents that they need to submit to qualify before they are fully hired. For example, the document could be a record of a flu shot they have taken, COVID vaccination they have taken, the registration data, and so on. So what the AI does here is it pulls the information from the document, be it like a flu shot like certificate or like a COVID certificate and so on, and it gives you an information on. I mean, you can choose what information you need. If I need only 4 fields, I can tell. It also tells you which fields it's confident of like pulling from the physical document they have provided, and which fields it's not confident that it got it right. So once it understands that this is a flu shot document, you can throw any kind of a flu shot document, not necessarily in this template, and it'll still understand it. That's the beauty of the AI system. So I'm uploading a second sample, which looks nothing like this, but like the AI would still get it, right? So I can take all these documents, I can compare against the resume and like other supporting documents they've supplied during the application process, and I can trigger a comparison workflow, right? So let's look at what the comparison workflow is going to look like. So this is a database of all the data of all the candidates, which it has automatically pulled. Now let's do the document reconciliation process. So this reconciliation is now starting. It's a drag and drop interface, and you can just add additional steps you would need. It's running that step now, and once it's run, it's going to throw out an Excel sheet. Yeah, the Excel sheet shows like here are the here is like the verifier, and like it says like which document matched, which document didn't match. Let me just go back for a moment to show this. So similarity match true, exact match false, which means the documents match, but it's not an exact match. It's very similar. The name is Danny R in one place, it's like Danny River in another place. Another field is 100% match. They have the vaccine from Moderna, but like that's what they've given. But in the document it says Moderna Inc., which is an 80% similarity score. But like we can just go ahead and accept it. So these sensitivities we can tune, right? So that's an example of what happens. So what you've seen is from the job description to understanding what traits to evaluate for, what questions to ask, qualifying the candidate if they are worthy of like interviewing, then doing the interview, then taking them and evaluating, and after evaluating if they are a go, then how to like verify their documents. All of it is done by various blocks of AI. The only part which is not here is posting the job in like say Indeed or like LinkedIn, getting the responses and parsing and taking that information, which is also possible. We've not done it because we don't have licensing to any of these job portals to do this, right? Once the hospital has it, we can pull that all together, right? So